And I wanted to say what I just told Elmo, like what he needed to do is as soon as he scouted his back gold mines, he only needed to worry about putting some pressure on Kimo and taking it to sea. After that, he needed to pay close attention to his wood in order to transition into farms, which means that he needed to avoid making archers early. That's why you go for 2 stables earlier, because they are low on food, high on gold, which means that you're gonna need 180 food per cycle, which means that you're gonna need close to 14 to 15 villagers on food non-stop in order to be able to make villagers and hippicons non-stop. And then the extra villagers, you just keep making farms with like 12 villagers on wood, and every villager that is being created makes farms until you have like 20 farms, and then you have a good economy. Start making archers around 10 minutes.
Well, we are starting with the second game, so let's see how much of an impact your advice is going to be having on Elmo's gameplay, as we are on Anatolia, which is quite an interesting map, usually better for Egyptians, of course, because of the fishies on the right and on the left, which is easy to defend with dog spam, basically. Elmo going to the bottom side, Kimo going for the same one, but they should be switching for the top side as well pretty soon, probably the Egyptians slightly faster. As of course we are looking at the first relic, that is for a better built-in pierce attack. And kinda luckily right now it's next to Elmo, because if it was next to Kimo, yeah, well, that would be pretty terrible for Elmo, because that would of course make towers and especially migdols trying to capture the gold mines in the middle of the map quite a lot more powerful. But he still needs to be careful so that it isn't stolen, for example, by Kimo, because he does have the Pharaoh at the bottom and might be going for a bit more scouting. But he isn't Ra, so as an ISIS he might be tempted to go for a bit more empowerment than scouting with him and just use the priest for that. Well, golds for him are pretty much fine for Kimo, both are back. And the one on the left, even though it's not really protected by towers, it's having a pretty nice tree line to help defend it from the left, so it should be pretty much fine for him. And so far we don't see anything all that much in the middle, but the gold right next to the dog of Kimo might be some kind of idea for him, because that could be really easier for him to capture, because of translation of the upper hand on the water, of course. I'm kinda curious if Elmo is going to be reacting to that somehow, because he's having a very similar gold mine on the bottom for him, and yep, so far not really sure what we're going to see from either players, and we're going to be seeing pretty soon once they advance into the next age if it's going to be Athena for Elmo yet again or Ceasefire from Hermes. In the meantime, another relic is for hero speed right next to Kimo's base. That could help him for faster priest, of course, as he's already moving for a second dock on the other side of the map. But Elmo was there kind of first, it doesn't really matter. They're quite far away from each other, so yep, both are probably going to be fighting for both waters, as that is usually expected on this map. Quite interesting placement of TCs, to be honest. Both are on the top side, kinda out of any protection of gold or whatever, especially for Kimo.
That means that Zeus is gonna have a problem. But the gold mine is an issue for Kimo, yes. Like the gold mines are in some really weird spots, but let's not forget that Kimo has Ancestral Eclipse, and with a well-placed Ancestral Eclipse, Kimo can place a migdol in between the gold mine and the TC, and he can secure 2 town centers plus a gold mine, and then Elmo, he's gonna be in a tough spot with chariots behind migdol and a town center with mercenaries. He will need Mythic to deal with that.
I'm right now kinda curious if Kimo is going to be tempted to go right next to the right shoreline, because it seems like from the map that there are a bit more condensed gold mines, so it might be easier for him to go 1-1, or rather for the first one to the second one, whereas on the left there is basically just one gold mine so far that we can see, which is really kind of curious spawn altogether, because you are not having any kind of covered gold because of town centers being on the left, gold mines on the right. So this is going to be really down to strategical game choices from both players. I'm really curious who is going to be making the better ones.
Well, the thing is that look at the line of the 3 town centers. Even though all the gold mines are in the bottom, the one Like, if Kimo controls the town center that is in the middle of the three town centers, he controls the other two as well, because of mercenaries, and he only needs one gold mine to achieve that. With that one gold mine, he can secure the two town centers and then launch an attack on the other town center. And then Elmo has no choice, no other option on TCs, and then he will be out of population. Like, the only way to win someone isn't only by gold controlling him, you can also pop control him. Having all the fish and all the villagers, Elmo will have like 20 population of army maximum. And Kimo will be at 3 or 4 town centers. That means that he will have like 90 pop of units. That means he can keep healing what Elmo is making. Even though Elmo will have a better economy, he will keep healing what Elmo is making, and then he will win. That happens a lot of times when people don't have pop. Like, pop is equally important as gold. Not as much early in the game, but later is as important as pop.
Well, right now we are going to be advancing into classical ages, as of course Elmo is almost through. Right now he's going to be through Hermes, so he's not going to be attempting anything with Athena yet again. So he's hoping that he can basically go for the longer game. He doesn't even want restoration for a water battle, which makes kind of little sense on Anatolia, of course, as that's kind of presupposed to be won by the Egyptians. So he can basically just try to somehow lure Kimo into making too many boats and straining his economy a bit too much. Or maybe even underestimated water, because of course of the advantage that the Egyptians do have here. And well, of course, right now he's going to be garrisoning them right inside the dock. And of course, he's having a lot of docks in there. He's having 3 already on the left side of the water, whereas Bull is having just 2. Yeah, just 2. But he's really concentrating on the fight quite a lot. It seems like that they are not really fighting on the right, like at all. Even though Elmo is going for another dock, and it's almost seeming like that it might be actually some kind of plan from Elmo to lure Kimo to fight on the top side, whereas at the bottom he's having a few more fishing boats that he's actually interested in, and maybe actually wanted to keep it in check for himself. So he wants to lure Kimo to fight at the top, whereas not really doing anything at the bottom and give him some extra push with the fishies before he loses them to Kimo, kind of inevitably, I would be thinking.
Well, it's all about like putting the pressure on Kimo to delay his heroic. I'm pretty sure Elmo, as you can see, he's making his armory. Like, no one wants to commit to fighting water on this map, unless you are North from Atlantic. Sorry. No one wants to commit. Like, there is no reason to commit because of the docks. Like, you can't really fight under dock fire and the reinforcements when you're playing on Anatolia, because you might get trapped and then you can take so much unnecessary damage. So each player wants to put pressure on his opponent in order to make more boats than him and then get heroic faster. So Elmo has made some boats, put some pressure, denied some fish because he has the dock, and then he goes back, forces Kimo to make more boats than him. As you can see, it's 8 against 10. And that's basically what's going to happen in the bot as well, if Elmo decides to make triremes there as well. I don't know why he's not making triremes though. He should be making triremes.
He's not really fighting anything at all at the bottom. He's going for second TC right now.
Yes.
As he's going to be advancing into heroic as well, right? He's going through Dionysus, of course, and Neft is coming in for Kimo. So do you actually think he might want to try to take the water with his skills? Because he's gonna get one at the bottom. That was the first dock.
Yep, so and he's also using 2 on prey. Two villagers are praying, so he's gonna have favor to use skillas. But I don't really like skillas, like especially when you're playing against Isis and there's always a pharaoh and some priests. Like, he can just send the pharaoh and lure the skillas towards the top and take them down using a pharaoh and a priest.
Yeah, right now, actually, Kimo cannot do that because of the prosperity. He'll be losing a ton of gold, so that's kind of a window of opportunity right now for Elmo to use it, as he's already sending the skilla in, and he's going to be making some extras. So far at the bottom, it doesn't seem so. At the top, yeah, he actually made one at the top, so he's going to go quite heavily into the top side, so he's hoping that it's going to be enough for him. And of course, the Leviathan for Kimo is going to be coming to the bottom. So he was maybe just hoping to somehow fake the water battle at the bottom. And they're really going fully onto the top, so let's see how that's going to work out for him. Well, this Killa is almost dead. She did her tanky damage, or rather, yeah, tanky damage and such. But he isn't building anything extra. And he is still praying. Curiously enough, so he's maybe even just right now waiting for the Mythical Age for himself, but in the meantime Kimo is going into the middle, trying to capture the gold for himself. Even though he could be getting a bit closer, he opted for a bit more safer placement, which should be pretty much fine, and he's already having barracks for some spearmen.
Yep,
Well,
you need that. When you're aging so late, while making so many cabinets, ships on both seas, you need to have some spearmen because you don't know if your opponent made an early stable. Like there was a chance that like Elmo had like 2 heroes and 3 or 4 or 5 hippicons in the middle waiting. So you need those like 5 spearmen plus a scorpionman plus villagers and a pharaoh in order to buy you some time to get that mid goal up.
well, right now it's looking that Kimo is going to be quite nicely settled in the middle, and he's very close by to the middle TC, exactly as you said. That's going to be important. So even though Elmo has already taken one at the bottom, it still doesn't really matter all that much because this is front of Elmo's. So if he's going to be denying him that one, yeah,
And
he's going to be advantage from there.
I don't really understand the reason why Kimo is getting his back TC. That's like the worst decision you could make. Like, why would you take a TC there? It serves no purpose. Maybe he wants to start a trade, but there's no really any reason to start a trade so early on this map. And there's so many gold mines for you to grab, especially when you have the army advantage, plus Ancestor and Eclipse.
Yeah, especially since he has just seen, Elmo has just shown him how little army he actually has, so there wasn't really all that much of a reason why he couldn't go for the TC in the middle. That definitely could have went for him, but yeah, he decided to go for a bit more safer approach. So let's see if it's going to be actually coming back to bite him, because of course this is allowing Elmo to get back a few more army, and basically the one villager of Kimo still in the army.
It actually gives Elmo an opportunity, an open window, which means that if Elmo sees that Kimo just got a TC and it's not one of the TCs in the middle, that means that my opponent doesn't have mercenaries in the middle.
Yeah, right
and
now
that's an opportunity.
Right now the TC is going to be his, and really, the blue army is quite far away and he's not gonna get there in time. Especially since Kimo is doubling this together with an attack on the gold villas, which is of course quite important. Kimo doesn't have any secure gold mine. This is basically his second in his home base. He's getting pretty heavily raided, and he's not making any attempt to capture the gold mines at the bottom of the map, which are of course the next one that he could be using. Ooh. And oh yes! Nicely played.
That was obvious, but Kimo got the TC.
Yeah, unfortunately, Elmo doesn't know this, so he's coming for the TC, but yeah, he's going to be a bit too late. So I'm curious if he's going to be continuing for the one at the back. Not sure if it would make any kind of sense, as it would be vulnerable.
It would make some sense. Like, if he, let's say he's aging, I don't know, he made a market, I don't know if he's aging though.
Not yet.
Let's say he was aging in Mythic, let's say he had some better eco management and he was going Mythic right now. If he had 145 pop, that means that his army would be like a lot stronger in order to take a fight in the middle. Plus, he wouldn't allow Kimo to get the TC, and Kimo to go 100, I don't know how much pop ISIS goes, that's too much. Like 160 pop or something with 4 TCs.
Yeah, plus about, what is it, 3 per TC, so like...
4 or 3.
So 172.
Oh, 3, never mind, it's 3.
Yeah, 3, so 169.
It's too much.
Well, right now the TC is going to be captured by Kimo, but interestingly enough, I had a look at the water, and it seemed like that Elmo is actually winning both of them.
Yeah, but like how many fishing ships? Like, Elmo has only 6 fishing ships in the bottom, and Kimo has 6 as well. So, like, what is he winning? He invested a lot more, yes, but right now, for the past minutes, Kimo was gathering there as well.
Well, but Elmo is definitely aiming for it, and he's probably hoping that it's going to be giving him some kind of edge. But not exactly sure about that, but still, the extra TCs are right now into play, as it's going to be 2 versus 4, and Elmo should definitely be getting into the mythical, as he's right now at least having medium hippicons, which will help him survive a bit longer. But 45 TCs up, As for Kimo, it isn't. So of course, we're gonna have a bit more help. Rather, he's gonna be having a bit more help for himself. Having pretty decent resources. Right now looking through a red. A red is not having any kind of resources, so easy advancing. No, he isn't. But he's really strained, and that might be really a result of the 4 TCs, because he'll be, of course, making a whole lot more army than he's probably ready for, especially since he lost the water, so he doesn't have all that much food income. He's actually just now switching into farms, so there might be some opportunity right now for Elmo to survive even against the extra TCs if he manages to advance fast enough into Mythic and get into late game Zeus shenanigans. Bronze being cast, which makes sense of course, because he was having decentish army, didn't really want to lose it. And he is still at least forcing people to use all the army to pursue that, which is kinda weird. As he's right now going for Fortress and trying to secure the gold exactly as he should be doing, because he doesn't have trade yet and doesn't really seem to be aiming for it so far. And well, if Kimo at least knew what's happening at the bottom, which he of course doesn't, well, he could be definitely easily able to stop the Fortress from coming up, but he is not going to be able to do that. And that's pretty big victory right now for Elmo, because he was basically out of gold without that.
The problem is Hippicons. Hippicons is a really good unit when you're at the same pop as your opponent. Because Hippicons, they need 3 pop, right? So like you won't have that many. Now Spearman, Scorpionman and Chariots with the 4 town center ISIS, that means that your opponent will have like 3 times your army, and that means you're pretty much screwed.
Mythic Age right now through for Elmo, so that's exactly on time. And what was needed for him, as we are looking at fortified town center right now for Kimo. Alright, so that's basically at the nick of time, because without the fortified TC, Colossi would be just wrecking the extras very easily.
With Ira he might have a chance. Like if with Ira he killed all this army, if all this army died.
Oh, pretty good raiding on the gold right now, Kimo. Right next to Miguel.
With Ira, if he killed all this army, then he would have had Helepolis plus his Hippicons to snipe down the Migdol. And since Kimo right now, he doesn't have a well-established economy. He just started trading. He has like 20 farms and basically good. There's no other gold mine for Kimo. So if he went Hira, he would have some chances to win the game. But right now,
well, this is looking decidedly well for Elmo, because Kimo is losing pretty much everything, and with Helepoli coming up, that's basically perfect tank for all these chariot archers, which seem to be exactly what's working for him. And even though Kimo is trying to go for the gold on the right, he has managed to lose the water altogether on both sides, so there will be some kind of possibility.
As long as as long as the ISIS is full pop, the Zeus won't be able to do anything. Because even though the Zeus is ahead in tech, and he might have better units, which he doesn't, by the way, because it's medium against heavy spearman against heavy chariots, and there's no military upgrades. He just now started getting them. It will take some time for Zeus army to be able to overwhelm the Egyptian one. But with Ira, he needed Ira, because with Ira, all the army would have died, and there is only 1 gold mine. And with that gold mine stopped, then suddenly Kimo would go down to the same population as Elmo. And that means that Elmo would be in a really good position to win this game. Yeah, right now, it's less than 50, it's like 60-40 for Kimo.
Well, Kimo seems to be still quite comfortable, as he is, of course, at the 182 population limit right now.
So, 182, huh?
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, that's 20 units, literally, 20 more units. That's insane.
And that's definitely showing right now, as he is having basically units exactly at 2 places at once, but there is some kind of attempt of sneaky attack from Elmo from the back. He basically went away, or rather around the enemy army. That was quite a nice maneuver actually. Getting rid of the Migdol, and that could be important because I don't think that Kimo is having another Migdol nearby. He isn't. He isn't having another Migdol. Well, that could be a pretty big problem if somehow right now Elmo is going to be able to kill his army, and he's going to be down to just spearmen, and that's of course very easily killable by all the Myrmidons and Toxos. That he so far isn't. But the Myrmidons,
Something that I don't understand that Kimo is doing a lot is he has an army of minimum speed 5, like spearmen and chariot archers, and he has one priest with them, and that army from 5 speed it goes down to like 2 point something, 3 point something, and they become so fucking slow. Like he has one. Do you see his main army in the fort that is going down right now? He has one priest, and that army was moving so slow, going up and forth, up and forth.
But it's going to be disaster right now for Elmo, because he probably is not going to be able to keep the fortress up, and he's going to lose a lot of villages on gold, right? About 15. Oh man, that's pretty bad for him. Even though Kimo is going to lose a lot of army in there as well, because of course he's fighting for it. This is not really good news for Elmo, even though he was moving quite nicely. But the TC at the top, Son of Osiris is in, and the TC is coming down. So that's exactly what he needed to achieve. He stopped the second Migdol that was coming up as well. And he basically right now removed 20 population limit from his opponent, and that might really help him. And it's really showing not so far. As he has basically killed the main army, and well...
Elmo needs to start trade. He's selling wood. I'm pretty sure he's selling resources right now. But he needs to somehow start the trade and make sure that his opponent is not gathering gold and he's not getting the 30C in order to be able to get all the armory upgrades and somehow stabilize. Because even though Elmo is ahead in score, the game is going towards Kimo's favor, because Kimo has a trade. Like if you see, his trade is almost ready.
Yeah, that's a very nice trade.
And that Son of Osiris is going to be a pain in the ASRE.
Now that he definitely will be. Right now Elmo has basically lost the remains of the army in the left side, so that's going to be probably attempt by Kimo to retake the TC sometime soon. But at the same time, Elmo is switching to the right because another Migdol has gone up right next to the gold mine, and he should be stopping that without any kind of problem. He's having at least heavy myrmidons already with bronze mail, bronze weapons and copper shields, so these are some good upgrades. Whereas for Kimo we are seeing heavy chariots and nothing. So yeah, that could be working quite well with all those upgrades. But the Son of Osiris, yeah, he needs to go.
Yep, he needs to die. If the Son of Osiris dies, then Elmo should win. But he needs archers as well. Like a lot of people forget to start making archers. He needs to stop making hippicons and start making archers. Hoplites and myrmidons and archers. Maybe even no myrmidons, just hoplites and archers.
Well, Son of Osiris is definitely in pretty good spot right now, finding himself basically in the middle of the fight. That's not where he should be at all.
Yep, he needs to make walls, start making walls. Like, you see that your opponent has literally no archers. So, have like 3 villagers with you and start making lines of walls so that your Son of Osiris can just walk back, fire, Just abuse the shit out of a unit that attacks like a fucking nuclear weapon. He's the nuclear weapon of mythology.
I'm just now looking actually at trade from Elmo, and for some weird reason he's actually choosing the absolutely impossibly small trade route.
Yeah, the worst trade route ever.
That's like, especially since he controls the water at the bottom, it makes literally no sense.
And he will never change it, by the way. He will just leave it there, gathering like 5 gold, a tickle of... How much is it? How much gold? Is like 5? 6?
14.
Oh, it's 14? Then he's a king. Okay, let's go to the fight to leave that.
Yeah, 55 for Kimo. So he, of course, having a lot more efficient. And there is a bit of a fight between Heracles and Son of Osiris. Even though Heracles is getting some extra shots in, he's definitely dealing with Son of Osiris quite well. He's down to 30 hit points. So that should be reasonably easy to pick up, with the Toxots finally making an appearance for Elmo. Exactly as you suggested, it should be done. And the second TC, or rather the TC in the front, still not being in Kimo's power, or Elmo's either, because of the Migdol right next to it. But the mercenaries, of course, are starting to be a problem, because Kimo does have the trade route. He's not having enough gold for that yet, all that much. He's having just 180, so he's not really having any kind of surplus. And he's down to population just 109 from 169. So he is having really pretty big problems with the economy, because he has lost a lot of gold miners on the right, yet again. Even though he's having... Oh, he doesn't have... God damn it, the upgrade after Shaft Mine. He's having just Shaft Mine.
40.
Yeah, very. He's at 24 minutes. Well, that could be helping him in there.
Yep.
But looking at the situation, still the medium Hippicons, I'm not right now sure if Elmo is just hoping that the Myrmidons are gonna win it, and he's basically moving down on the Hippicon, so he doesn't want to invest on heavy.
It really makes me wonder, why would you take the flaming arrows, the burning pits upgrade for your chariots? It makes no sense to take it like against units. There's nothing for him to kill, like it's better to make catapults. Or even go for ballista towers if you have the wood. Like ballista towers in this situation would have been ideal.
Well, right now it's going to be down to trade for Kimo. He's definitely out of any options for the gold because the map control is fully in Elmo's power, and he's gonna be picking up the DC pretty soon, and since he's having pretty decent upgrades, he's all iron on the champion Myrmidons. And Kimo is having champion chariots, but having just bronze shields. Why would you get bronze shields when you're fighting mostly melee units?
He got them really early in the game, but there were never archers, like there's no reason to take.
So he was just basically making use of some extra resources that he was having through the economy. But yeah, this game doesn't really seem to be aiming for anything good for Kimo, especially right now with Colossus making an appearance. And are we going to be seeing some more of them? Well,
You know why
30C
he's
for
taking
Elmo.
Colossus? Finally, the caravans paid something, like he gathered 300 gold for the Colossus. That's how he got it.
Well, it seems that this attack is working quite well, because basically as the Colossus is working as a tank right next to the town center, he's allowing a few Hippicons to get into the chariots, which is exactly what he needs to do, as he's right now killing it. But that should be coming down reasonably soon, as I don't expect I would be interested in the fortress actually producing some Helipoli. But yeah, on the right, the position is quite alright for Elmo, as we are having some leg spike or some such.
I don't think it's me. It's Elmo.
Yeah, we are talking here, so it shouldn't be us. Hopefully it's gonna continue, but at any rate, this game seems to be quite close to actually being over, I'm thinking. Kimo is basically...
Not really. As long as ISIS has trade and the mercenary point, which is the town center, game is not over.
Well, do you think he could actually survive Kimo with just 2 TCs? Because I'm kinda thinking that this third one is gonna down. But yeah, that mercenaries could be working, but he isn't preparing for any kind of tower spam and such, so he will be just wide open. And it might not be a worst kind of idea from Elmo to send, like, I don't know, one Colossus to Helipolis on the right TC, because of course, you can see he's not guarded at all. And Elmo probably doesn't know about it, but still, it could be worth it. Some kind of side attack. Well, I'm gonna check outside of the game. And he got some weird error message, Elmo, that he gets in show matches, so they might be actually restarting, or rather restoring. Exactly sure. Yeah, they will be probably restoring, so I guess I'm gonna quickly show the post game and then we're gonna go out of the room and restore, if it's possible. Well, that was pretty interesting game though so far. And okay.
Yep, it was.
And really, that was kind of back and forth, because it really seemed that Kimo had it in his hands, with Elmo not making really the obvious choices in there, or the better choices as you would have hoped. And well, Kimo though managed to somehow lose the game, and I'm kind of thinking that it might have been also because of the water, that Kimo basically underestimated and gave away for more or less free.
Well, Kimo didn't apply pressure to the TC on the left. Like as soon as he got the TC, the forward TC, he just needed to put pressure on the TC on the left. Let Elmo with 1 TC, and then Elmo would just lose. Like you cannot win when you are 1 TC against 3 TCs or 4 TCs. You just cannot win.